Welcome back, everyone. Mark Thomas here. Let's talk about the COBIT 2019 Foundation exam, specifically about the logistics of how you take the exam, some of the rules of the exam, and what you do after the exam. Now, we will not be covering specific exam questions. That's the subject of another one of our videos on this site. Very quickly, we'll talk about the COBIT 2019 certificate program for the foundation exam, what you need to know before, during, and after taking the exam. Currently, there are 4 primary publications with COBIT 2019. I call these the Framework Guide, the Objectives Guide, the Design Guide, and finally the Implementation Guide. For more information on the contents of these, take a look at our COBIT 2019 overview video on this site. Now for the foundation exam, these are the 2 publications you really need to have to prep for this test, the Framework Guide and the Objectives Guide. However, I found that the majority of the questions can be answered right from the Framework Guide. So if I were you, I'd spend most of my time here, and I'll show you why in just a few seconds. Let's jump on into it. We'll talk about the COBIT 2019 Foundation Certificate. What you're looking at here are the domains, or the modules that are covered in a foundation course, as well as the structure from which the exam questions will be allotted. We'll see on the next slides the percentages of questions by each module. The COBIT 2019 Foundation Certificate program covers 8 key areas: the Framework Introduction, Principles, Governance System and Components, Governance and Management Objectives, Performance Management, Designing a Tailored Governance System, the Business Case, and finally, Implementation. The exam will test your understanding of these topics, and if you get a passing score on the foundation exam, you will receive the COBIT 2019 Foundation Certificate. Now, let's take a look at how these questions are allotted in the next couple slides. But first, some exam essentials. This COBIT 2019 certificate exam is online, it's closed book, and remotely proctored. It can be awfully strange if you've never done an exam with an online proctor, but it's not that bad. It's actually pretty easy to take. As said before, this exam covers 8 domains and it includes a total of 75 questions. The number of questions in each domain is based on the domain's assigned weight. I'll have a chart on the next slide that displays the domains and the weights that are assigned to each one of those. Now, as an exam taker, you're given 2 hours or 120 minutes to complete the exam, and a score of 65% or higher is required to pass the exam. Exam registration fee is $175. Please note that these purchases are non-refundable and non-transferable. Individuals holding a certification from ISACA from what we call the Core 4, which would be CISA, CISM, C-Guide, and C-Risk, may claim 2 CPE credits for each examination hour when a passing score is achieved. As we saw earlier, there are 8 domains. Now here's what you need to know about those domains and how the exam is going to throw those at you. First one, Framework Introduction. About 12% of the questions, you'll see the reference that comes right from what we call the COBIT 2019 Framework Introduction and Methodology, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. The principles are about 13%. These are framework principles and governance system principles. That also comes from the Introduction and Methodology, Chapter 3. Here's a big one, governance system and components, 30% of this exam. You'll find that information in the Introduction and Methodology publication, Chapter 4. Coming in close second at 23% are the governance and management objectives. Notice I have 2 guides highlighted here. One is the Introduction and Methodology, and the other is the Governance and Management Objectives. What you'll need to know for this exam are the purpose statements for each of the 40 Governance and Management Objectives. You can find that information in this Governance and Management Objectives Guide, or it also is included in the Introduction and Methodology in Chapter 5. Next, we have 4% of the questions come from Performance Management, Chapter 6 of Introduction and Methodology. 7%, Designing a Tailored Governance System, out of the Introduction and Methodology, Chapter 7. We have the Business Case at 3%, And finally, we have implementation at 8%. Of course, the last two from the introduction and methodology publication. All right, what you need to know before the exam. Let's step in and see what we've got here. First, exam preparation. Now, you may choose the study method that's best suited to your personal learning style and your preferences. You can self-study or take a foundation course from an accredited training provider. Of course, I recommend taking the course, as you'll not only prepare for the exam, but you'll learn some valuable information about how to use COBIT in your organization from your instructor. More information on the types of COBIT training and publications from ISACA can be found on the COBIT 2019 page. Some system requirements. You'll have hardware requirements, operating systems that are supported, web browsers and settings, and of course, webcam and a microphone are required. You'll have to have the proper bandwidth, and you can find the specific requirements on what is called the COBIT 2019 Foundation Certificate Exam Guide. It's found on the ISACA site. I'll show you that coming up. Finally, to schedule your exam, it's really pretty easy. Go to the ISACA website, click My ISACA tab, put in your username and password, click Login, go to My Certifications, then Certification Programs. You'll use the drop-down menu to select the exam that you want to take, and then there's a calendar icon that helps you choose the date, and you use the drop-down menu to choose a time. You'll, of course, read the candidate agreement, click I agree, and go to My Exams page, and that'll give you the details of your exam schedule. Let's go to some of the rules next. One of the first things that you should know is that you cannot cancel or reschedule within 24 hours of your exam time. If you do, you basically just bought an exam without taking it, and you'll have to go through the scheduling process again. I understand this rule, as really the online proctors have to be scheduled for this as well. Here's some things you should know before you take the exam. 1, choose a quiet area to take the exam. I would avoid using an area that has loud noises like family rooms, television rooms, right? Those kinds of things. And of course, public places like coffee shops and restaurants. You need to have a valid photo ID. That name on the ID must be the same that appears in your ISACA profile. Of course, you need a webcam and a clean work area that has no reference materials, because remember, this is an unassisted exam. You can access the online environment about 15 minutes prior to the scheduled start time. I recommend getting there early so you can connect with your proctor and get the exam launched properly. Be sure your computer has sufficient battery life or is plugged into a power source for the duration of the exam. And make sure that you have stable internet connectivity for the duration of this exam. If you lose connectivity, your session is going to be ended automatically and the results will be voided. And finally, you must take the exam in full screen mode. This is a big list. Of course, I hate to be negative, but there are some things that aren't allowed during the exam. A few things to remember. They might seem a bit aggressive to you, but I believe they're reasonable. No cell phones, no reading questions out loud, no instant messengers or tools or any other systems or applications open. You can't use a camera, no screenshots. Of course, that's unassisted, no books, notes, etc. They don't want you to be eating or drinking or walking around during the exam, or of course, having anybody standing around your area, and no unscheduled breaks, notes, or other programs, as we mentioned earlier. The proctor will stop the exam if any of these rules are not followed, and any form of cheating will not be tolerated, and the result will be a voided exam without refund. Let's talk about closing out and finishing up that exam and some of the things you need to know here. Please be sure that you are ready to submit the exam when you're finished, because you won't be able to go back into the exam and modify the answers to any questions after you click submit. You'll get a message to confirm your submission, noting any unanswered items, and you'll receive your exam results immediately upon clicking that submit button after you complete the exam, and of course, a short exam survey. Your score and your pass-fail status will be displayed on that exam environment, and you'll be able to access your score and your pass-fail status on the My ISACA tab as well. Sometimes it happens. Let's say you have a bad day and the exam just doesn't go your way. What's next? If you don't pass the exam, you can retake it, a max of 3 times in a 12-month period. Where do you find this information? Let's jump out to the ISACA site, and I'll show you where I found all of this information. It's pretty easy to find. I found everything I needed to know at isaka.org. I went up to the banner location here that said COBIT. Go to COBIT 2019 home. A lot of information out there for us. But I went down to this link called training and took a look at the training links. Once I got to that site, I went down to the COBIT 2019 exam links right here. I hit click more. And under this section, it tells us what I need to know about the foundation exam. It gives you general information. And let's take a look at the learn more section. And here's what I just showed you on this short video. You can register for the exam here, or you can also download the COBIT 2019 Foundation Certificate Exam Guide right here, which is going to give you detailed information about preparing for, taking, and after the COBIT 2019 Foundation exam. So there you have it. Good luck when you take this exam. Come back to this site in our premium courses. I'm getting ready to post up some sample exam questions that might help you in your journey to get COBIT 2019 Foundation certified. Good luck, everyone.